Well, hang on for the ride like the cat is doing here because I want to actually present you with some hardcore axioms. Um, Now, I can infer exactly what's going to generally happen in the future just from what happened in the past. He's using pure common sense. No drama here, but maybe some of the things might sound somewhat dramatic. But believe me, on this deal, um, if you really think about it, and usually I present some angles that are like pure rational thinking, common sense, and that's usually what I like to do more than anything. Now, I could tell you just before we get into that some of the things I think are going to come down, which is stark reality to the max. We can also state that I think that the silver gold ratio has already peaked out several months ago. I mean, it's kind of the dollar's up over 100 on the index again, and the ratio has gone back up in recent months, but I think it's already peaked out months ago. And if we look at a correlation between when it peaked out the last time to the time it went to like 20 something to 20 something ounces of gold, silver to 1 ounce of gold, I think it took like 2.5 years, but it might be a little quicker this time. And I don't think it's. I think the ratio this time is probably going to be 20 to 1 or 15 to 1, and gold is going to be significantly higher. Now, one thing I'm going to tell you that you already know this, but maybe you're not making a final link. Okay, Trump won the election. Okay, I'm not 100% sure about Trump, but I know that he was not the person they wanted. Like, there's a lot of questions from the $1 million and above donors questioning, the Clintons. Where did that $1.5 billion go to the last several months of your campaign? So, what I'm referring to here is not about politics or about, the election and all this. I'm just telling you that the money was really on Hillary's Clinton's more than anything. The big guys, the Illuminati. I know what if you want to call them that. I know they probably dumped her at the end because she was just too dirty and there's too many scandals and she wouldn't be able to get anything done. She probably couldn't be trusted even by the Illuminati. They couldn't control her. She would have been a loose cannon. But the end result is this. Even though Trump is somewhat in with them, he's not exactly in with them. And what I think they're going to do is, what was Trump's motto or campaign slogan? Make America great again. Now, I'm all for the protectionism, raising tariffs, punishing companies that try to get the hell out of the country and go somewhere else. Screw the free market, okay? I mean, I hear the experts tell me about the free market. It's not even a free market the way it is. It's actually skewed against us big time, and Trump's right about that. But here's what I'm inferring from this, the whole 9 yards. They really don't want Trump in there. They're going to make him look as bad as possible. And how do you make people get pissed off at the president more than anything? Screw up the economy and raise the price of commodities, including the price of home heating oil, food, and gasoline for your car. I mean, yeah, it's not happening. Well, oil's going up somewhat. Unfortunately, the silver's not following it just yet, but it will. It will. And the government is also going to have to tighten its belt, just like old girl here with the 18-inch waist. If you look on that Deagle.com site, now I know it could be all freaking exaggerated to the max, but I think they're basically right about, some of the premises they put out there that, right before the Soviet Union fell, the propaganda from the government was hot and heavy, but all the numbers that were underlying the real economic situation were the exact opposite what the propaganda was. I mean, what's been going on for since 2008, for the last 8 years, that they've been saying the economy's recovered and all this. There really hasn't been a recovery in with the working class. There's been a recovery in with the upper echelon because prime assets have went up, like prime investable assets, prime real estate, like the stuff Trump is invested in, The prime commercial real estate has went up dramatically, and investor class assets have went up dramatically. The stock market's approaching 20,000 now. So, some people have been making out on the top, but the average person's getting screwed, man, all the way. Um, but I do think that it's not even think. It's like I notice it's an axiom. What do you if they were like look how antagonistic the major media was to Trump. Not trying to talk politics here. I'm trying to tell you something else. Trying to drive home what you can infer from that. The major media is an arm of the real power, the real establishment, Illuminati, whatever you want to call it, the insiders or whatever the hell you want to call it, the cabal, whatever. It's different words you can use, but the people that really run this country, they really didn't want him in. I mean, yeah, they dumped Hillary at the last minute because she was ridiculously dirty, and now they realize she would not have even had that dirt on her if it wasn't for the internet. So now they're trying to really squash free speech, right? With all these other rulings by Obama. But what are they going to do in the future now? How do they want to? They're going to pull out all the stops on destroying the economy just to make Trump look bad. It's like he said, "Make America Great Again," and they're going to clobber it. See, he's one guy. That's what I'm almost sure what's going to happen. The Federal Reserve can make or break the economy very easily with interest rates and all that. So, what are you going to do? I mean, now, I think that where they're going to punish the hell out of the middle class and the poorer classes, and actually say the lower classes, let's say that, because maybe there's probably not even that much of a middle class anymore. Because most of the people that think they're middle class, if you're really looking at, the wealth disparity is getting more skewed in this country. Now, not to knock the USA all the way, because I could tell you the wealth disparity in Russia is way worse than in the United States. Way worse, okay? Not knocking Putin or nothing like that. I personally think we should try to get along with Putin as good as possible. But what I'm saying is that wealth disparity is going to get even worse because they're going to, behind the scenes, they're going to allow commodity prices to go up, which is going to have to include silver, but it's going to be everything. It's going to be especially energy cost, even though energy should be dirt cheap as it was. I mean, oil really should be $20, $30 a barrel. The earth has plenty of oil. But, that's another scam that's going on. So, people are just going to have to really wind up. They're going to find out they're going to have to go to other modes of transportation even because the price of gasoline is going to go up. Now, all this is going to drive up because silver's not going to just go up all by itself, and everything else is going to stay the same. I wish it would. It'd be great, But just look at what happened even in 1980, 79, 80. Silver, gold, platinum, palladium, they all went up about the same percentage amount. Maybe not exactly timed one-to-one perfectly exactly, but they all went up about the same percentage amount. But what was really cheap was the big ticket items like home furnishing, cars, and what else? Maybe the real estate too, because people didn't have the money to buy houses. They needed their money to pay for gasoline and food. Maybe it'll be do like these 1920s flappers girls here on the old motorcycles, and save yourself a couple bucks traveling, via two-wheel. Now, what I think is going to happen though is the rats in Wall Street are going to go scurrying. There's no doubt about it. They got an instinct to know. And that's going to really give you the heads up. And I think it's been going on for quite some time. I'm planning on probably going up to Tennessee mountains eventually and getting the hell out. I'm more in a semi-rural area as it is, which is, I'm pretty much low key. The base here is really fine where nothing's going to, it's real low maintenance, real low, whatever. It's not like it doesn't really cost me crap, But I'm looking at something even better than this, where I got it now, especially up in the mountains. And I could tell you that a lot of people that are very important people in New York, these rats, they smell what's coming up. They're buying up a lot of land out in North Texas or Montana and stuff because they know they think things are going to collapse and they want to be ready to get the hell out of where they're at. Um, I'm almost well, it's not I'm almost dead certain. I am dead certain that they're going to do everything in their power to make Trump look bad. And how do you make him look bad with the people and all his supporters? Well, raise the price of gasoline, home heating oil, price of food, and just the cost of living in general. That's when the silver's going to go up. And I'm almost dead certain of this. So, the cats are waiting. The cats are waiting. That's us the cats, waiting for the rats to come over. Yeah, I tell you what, I wish we were all up in where these jerks are going to freaking flee to, the Wall Street robber barons and all that. But where I think this is all going to play out eventually is that, well, I hate to say this, man, because it's like, I'm not trying to be a doom and gloomer, but it's been a freaking pattern that's been going on forever. What happens when you have economic problems? Like if the United States catches a cold, the world catches pneumonia, right? They always say that with the economic situation. Well, the other thing is, we got this big imploding, looming debt behind the scene, debt bomb. It's just like $20 trillion right now and increasing. And, Obama's setting everything in stone as much as he possibly can to keep the government on full steam ahead. So, I don't know how much Trump's going to be able to reverse. And I think Trump's pretty legit. I think he is. But the thing is, we're going to have to settle up on this debt situation. Either it's going to have to be, we're going to have to start paying it down, and we're not going to pay it down everything at face value. That's what I'm saying. And what's going to happen then is that the dollar is going to lose a lot of its clout in the world. And anybody holding U.S. paper, the bonds, if that market starts going down, you see, it screws up the liquidity in the world. And not only the liquidity in the world, it's not only we got this big credit bubble going on with governments in the world, but we have this big credit bubble going on within the whole private sector. Not talking companies necessarily, I'm talking about individuals. Actually, what's led to all the expansion of the GDP since the 1950s even has been economic expansion. Buying power of the U.S. public has been the expansion of credit. Now, a lot of this credit has been backed by, credit always is backed by assets, okay? And we've had times where, back, from 2000 or the late 90s to 2007, we had one asset that really went up a lot, which was the real estate housing market, which is, some people disagree with this, but I could tell you it's textbook different definition. The real estate, construction industry, and corollary industries that are related to them are 50%, almost 50% of the entire GDP. And you know what happened when those assets lost a lot of their value? That's when we had the credit crunch in 2008, 2009. And there was there was an electronic run on the money markets in the banks. And what happened at that time, September 28th, narrowly avoided a total systemic failure of the banking system. It really happened, okay? I could say that the boutique investment firm at the accounting, I don't go in a CPA office that much. I go in there once a week or so, whatever the hell it is. I don't screw around with this shit too much anymore. But there's a boutique investment house there too, and the guy that runs it in Florida, I don't want to say his name, he said that it was narrowly averted a spectacular systemic failure of the financial system due to a liquidity crunch. Why is there a liquidity crunch? Because the money exists in the form of credit and debt. not only on a personal debt level, but also the global level. That's the other thing. So I think they're gonna pull the plug on all this crap when Trump's in office. And when you're talking, and the other thing is there's a war on cash. Um, a major freaking, they could, what? I know they really can't screw too much with real hard assets. They could try to maybe confiscate gold or something, but they can one day wake up. I mean, not that I think this is going to happen within the next 2 weeks, but I think it's going to happen within the Trump administration. I'm not saying he's the cause of it. I know his detractors and the people all supported Hillary and say he caused all this, but no, it's like they're going to let it happen when they want it to happen, because it's going to be punishment to the American people for, kicking out. I mean, I know Trump's not perfect, okay, but that I'm just telling you, I'm bringing up this political stuff somewhat to predict to you exactly what's coming down the road. It's going to be pretty bad. Now, I know there's a lot of stories out there about Planet Nibiru and Planet X, and I'm like, yeah, okay. Well, if there is a Planet X, fine. What do you want me to do about it, man? I mean, I don't even pay attention to that stuff, but I know there's a lot of stuff like that on YouTube, conspiracy channels, and maybe there is one. I don't know. But, I always look at it like that. What am I going to do about it, But I can tell you one thing that's going to probably come up that's going to be pretty bad. Every time, and this happened in World War II, World War I, blah, 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 economic depressions lead to war. People are fighting for assets, real assets, especially food. And, we got what's coming up, too. I don't know if you pay attention to some of the stuff, but, crop production is going to be greatly affected during this time, because we're going into the global mini ice age. Some people saying, no. Well, I'll tell you one little fact out there, and you probably think this is almost ludicrous. In Morocco, for instance, they had record snows where like hundreds of people froze to death, and where they don't ever get snow ever, and it was just starting in December. Now, I don't know, in the United States it's not doing much yet, but who the hell knows? But they've already had a lot of crop failures in Canada that were like record snows that started real early. The worst that people have ever seen in their lifetimes. That is going to actually have serious repercussions for competing for vital resources. No other more vital. If you compare silver to food, there's no, hands down, food is far more important than silver. Supposedly, silver is going to help you to buy more food, in the future. But what I think will happen is when silver goes up, fuel is going to be way the hell up. All the other metals are going to be up: copper, lead, aluminum, you name it, platinum, palladium, gold, all that. And you're also going to find that energy is going to be way up. And all this is going to lead to a competition for resources. Now, I'm showing a nuclear mushroom cloud here. Now, I mentioned this on other videos. They do not, we do not have any tactical nuclear arms reduction treaties with anybody. I know a lot of people don't realize that, but we have strategic nuclear arms treaties with Russia and everybody else, right? Nothing on tactical. Tactical is bad because you need a bunch more of them to do the same amount of damage, but there's loads of them out there, and they're very easy. They're very much, they can be tempted to do this stuff, and one little anything would totally upset our just-in-time delivery system, our financial markets, you name it. And that's another reason I'm not too keen on Bitcoin, because Bitcoin requires electronics for it to work. I'm not sure how this deal's going to work, man. I'll tell you, I don't know. But I can tell you that, and I don't want to make it sound too bad, but I'm going to have to tell you, it's like the way to freaking get around this is you have to go really old tech. And that doesn't mean you have to be on a horse. It doesn't mean you have to, do everything by hand. But probably some of the older tech that's more resilient against solar flares or maybe radiation or whatever, EMPs and all that kind of stuff, is going to be very, very vital to have. I'm all for new tech. I like new tech. I kind of like tech, in a lot of ways. But like, if you're going to be one of these people that wants to live out someplace and have electrical power, you really need an EMP-proof generator head, and it'd be good to have a Lister, Lister motor, diesel generator that runs real slow. Those are the things that are used up in the camps up in northern Alaska. They just run for months and months and months at a time on vegetable oil, and just keep running. Something like that. I don't know. I could be wrong on this, but I don't think I am, because I think they're going to do anything they can to knock down Trump. You know how I know this? Just look what they did during the election. I mean, I'm not playing politics here, but I'm just using that as a barometer of what the powers are behind the scenes, which you could tell what the powers behind the scenes want by what the major media says. And, Barack Obama's trying to sign, well, he already did sign it, the law, a bunch of things to restrict the false news independent media or some garbage. I tell you the truth, I'm thinking about it when I go up to Tennessee. I wasn't even sure what kind of, I was like thinking, I don't like about log cabins because they burn, and, Gatlinburg fires and stuff. I mean, I wouldn't be in that area exactly, but it's still a big, and, anything else out there, I don't know, bricks are pretty good, but, that's just a facade. I'm thinking about a metal building, maybe even a Quonset hut homes or some crap, do something like that, because that's strong against wind, snow loads, fireproof, the whole 9 yards, right? And, it's 2 stories. Might look stupid, but who cares? I don't have to worry about I wouldn't be worrying about what the homeowners association has said, because I wouldn't be in one of those gated community jobbers too. So, but let me just say that I think this is what's coming. It's like right in your face, though, isn't it? Isn't it really that way? I mean, I'm not trying to tell you something here to, drama, the doom, the end is here. I don't think the end is here or anything like that, but I think there's going to be turmoil and tumultuous times, because the elite guys, or if you want to call them that, the insiders, the money powers. Yeah, first off, which cracks me up, man. They blew $1.5 billion on the Clinton campaign the last few months of the campaign. And what did they blow? How much did they throw away on Jeb Bush? $100 million or something or more? I mean, that's pretty funny. But those guys that spend that kind of money, they're not stupid. Yeah, they screwed up. I mean, they're not flawless, but they're not stupid. They want to know what happened to that money, right? But in other words, they spent that money on other people because those people were going to implement their policies. Trump is definitely not. One thing he's been consistent on, which I could trust all the way, he has not been in with this globalism, exporting jobs and factories to overseas outside of America. He's definitely not been in with that ballpark. Nowhere near it. That's where I think they're gonna do is crash the crap out of the economy one way or the other and say it was caused by Trump's protectionism. I'm like, yeah, sure. Anyway, tell you the truth, man, I wouldn't mind if Putin did drop a nuke on some of these freaking bankster jackasses, and you probably agree with me with that. Not exactly a fan of Vlad, but I mean, there's some of these guys over here so bad. I mean, the Russian oligarchs ain't no good either. Believe me, they're bad news. They're doing the same thing. That's why Putin really doesn't want to have any kind of conflict with the West at all, because they're all connected. Everybody's connected, but there's some good games going on. It's almost like you think, well, it's obvious to me that they're trying to pull Putin's chain enough times where he's going to react to a situation where his back's to the wall. That's something else. I mean, it's writing's on the wall, man. And anytime there's global tensions, gold goes up. And actually, I don't want tensions with Russia. Believe me, I'd rather have us get along with Russia great, and the United States and Russia work really hand in hand as strategic partners and just, run the whole world, fine. Give Russia equal status with the United States, the whole nine yards. That's what I would think. But I know it ain't going that way, and it seems like it's an insider policy to try to really tweak Putin as much as possible, piss him off, get him backed into a corner so he reacts. And I don't want it to be that way, but I think that's what they're doing. Okay, and these guys are like total rats, man. That's what I'm telling you. They're freaking. But they screw up too. Just like the $1.5 billion to Hillary Clinton, they screwed up. The $100 million to Jeb Bush, and I know it's popular on the internet about the Rothschilds and all that. You know what? Well, a lot of the Rothschilds' mansions are probably going to go up in smoke if they freaking play. If we ever get into a really serious conflict, I hope this crap don't happen. But honestly, if you look back to really, really ancient history, and I could tell you, I think mankind's been on this earth since I don't know when. I mean, at least hundreds of thousands of years, right? There's been evidence of nuclear wars out in the deserts, across the world, where you see in the sand like glass that was caused by real high heat from the sand melting, and like, where'd this come from? Now, maybe it could have come from some cosmic source or something, I don't know. But there's other theories out there that mankind has, discovered everything we have, like we have back in the last 100 years, mostly what we discovered. And there's been global conflicts, and actually it's in the fables of a lot of literatures across the world. In India, there's a lot of fables about airships fighting each other and stuff. Some people think it's folklore, but maybe it's not. And the Earth destroyed itself probably when, there was a competition for resources when everything was going into the global major ice age. There's actually an outside chance we're doing that. I don't know. So what the hell? What is silver going to do for you there? Well, I don't know, man. Actually, to tell you the truth, I think I've been saying it before on this channel. Silver is more than an investment because the medical uses. It's not just an antimicrobial. It's not just an antibiotic. It also promotes the right type of bioflora in the stomach, where 80 to 90% of your immune system really comes from. It does not kill the good microbes, it kills the bad microbes. Another thing is, ionic silver will help the body produce stem cells in the exact amounts needed. It's amazing how many people don't get on the ball with this stuff, because actually if everybody in the United States only bought a couple ounces of silver each, that would take up the entire world supply. That would be the end of it. And the price would go up exponentially. But on the same side, the other side of it, everybody's health would be much better. But such is not the way of the world, because the world is driven by marketing, advertising, and gimmicks. The way people, pharmaceutical medicines and all that, instead of natural things that we can use. Unlike all the other metals out there, silver really is the only one that has all these medicinal benefits. I'm surprised that, the people that sell silver and all these bullion dealers, they aren't putting that out there a lot. I don't know why. It's amazing. It's amazing, because it would reach a much wider audience. But I just have to say it again. I'm dead certain about this. They're going to do everything in their power to discredit Trump when he gets in office. I mean, you could see they were talking about. I know it didn't happen with the Electoral College. There's a couple people defected from Trump, but then there was 5 that defected from Hillary. But they're going to do everything they possibly can to discredit him. And how do you do that? Not with words. Hit the people that supported Trump the hardest. And how do you hit them? Raise the price of food and home heating oil, gasoline, and all the commodities, and hit them right in the pocketbook where they have to purchase necessities, and that's going to hurt the most. Plus, you have the war on cash, and if it turns out that the United States needs to make some kind of deal with other countries about how we pay down the debt and we're not paying it back 100%, well, that's going to create a global liquidity crisis. Because when the credit, you're starting to default on credit, even if it's partially defaulting, well, there's that much less money in the system to spend. And Americans in general are already 100% tapped out on what they can borrow. Like I said, another thing, as the economy, this is like, well, I hate to say it, but this is how it works, man. If you have a diminishing economy in a particular country, the real estate values, or you also, besides having a diminishing economy, and you have more social unrest, the real estate values in that country go down dramatically. One of the reasons the real estate values in New York are really high is because, it's the financial capital of the world. It's there's more political stability in New York City than there is in a lot of other major cities throughout the world. But if that all changes, all those values go down. What does that mean? Those values, real estate values, are one of the major underlying assets that are backing the credit of all the banking system, entire banking system in the United States. So, I mean, it could have a snowball effect like that. Not to say it's guaranteed to happen this way, but I draw an absolute axiom, and I think you have to agree with this. The powers that are entrenched are going to do everything they possibly can to make Trump look as bad as possible. And what was Trump's main thing he kept saying? Make America great again, improve the economy. They're going to do everything they can to throw dirt at him. And you're going to say the reason, things are going bad is because Trump's an isolationist. Trump's a protectionist. That's the excuse they're going to give. I'm putting it out very simply here, but a lot of times you're better off doing it that way. So this is why I think that not only is food, oil, fuel, and all that other stuff going to go up, but all the metals, all the commodities across the board, which is going to include gold, silver, platinum, and palladium. I hope we don't get more conflicts with anything in the world, and I hope we don't have any problems with Russia, but we could see the writings on the wall with NATO, how they're trying to antagonize Russia. And I'm not saying that NATO's all wrong or anything. I'm not like, rah, 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 Putin's always right and he's my hero, but they are pulling Putin's chain quite a bit. I could see that. And the more tensions with Russia we have, I personally think that palladium is going to go up higher than any of them percentage-wise. Palladium should probably exceed the price of gold, although that sounds ludicrous today. I don't want, but you know where it's going to happen. If it does that, it's because we have major tensions with Russia. I don't want that to happen, but it kind of looks like that's what the way it's going. Because, one other thing I should state on here in the end. The CIA predictions, when they make predictions for the next 5 years and all that, more than likely, it's not, in my mind, it's hands down. When the CIA makes predictions on what's going to happen in some country or economy with their population or with their infrastructure or their economy, when they're making predictions, they're actually stating their goals. One of their predictions on Russia is, and I don't think it's going to happen, but they say that Russia is going to fall apart and that the U.S. and UN forces are going to have to go into Russia and secure the nuclear arsenal. Well, I translate that into this. It's not saying the CIA is predicting this. The CIA has a policy for it to be this way. And to tell you the truth, what I think is going to happen is it's going to fail, and they're going to wind up antagonizing the hell out of Russia, and it's going to lead to a big mess, and everybody's going to lose. I'm not for this stuff. I just think it's probably going to happen that way. But I think it's all survivable. So, anyway, over and out. Good news for the price of silver. Bad news for everyday life. I mean, I don't know what the hell it is. I don't want to put it out like this, but I think that's the way it's going to go. Just remember, the elite guys, which is the major media part of it, right, is part of the elite guys, they've been against Trump all the while. You think they're vicious during the campaign? Wait till he gets in office. They're going to do everything they can to make the economy and his supporters suffer as much as possible. I am absolutely sure of this. I don't want it to be this way. But crying out loud, I mean, really, you could see that's plain common sense. What they did in the past, they're going to keep doing. There's no doubt about it.